Hey everybody, it is time once again for the R&R show, but before I get to that, I want to do a quick shout out to one of my favorite things in all of board gamedom. It is the yearly Uganda Village Board Game Convention and Science Camp. They are crowdfunding now to raise money to put on their 2024 edition. And folks, if you've never heard me talk about this before, it is absolutely amazing. Getting these Ugandan kids a big step up in life as they learn about science and art and other cultures around the world and get self-confidence. I mean, so much comes out of this, and it's all from playing board games. Every year they put on this multi-day convention where kids from around the country get to come and stay. So this is a convention that provides food and housing as well. So the funds raised are absolutely essential to its success, and you can help out too. I mean, just look at these kids. I mean, this is literally, you will find no better example in all of board gamedom, the idea of board games actually changing lives, improving lives, and you can help out with this. Just go to the page. I've got a link for it down in the show notes. It's right up there at the top. Very easy to spot. It breaks down all the types of games, what lessons the kids are learning, what their successes have been in the past. Did you know last year this whole system won the 2023 Grande Foundation International Peace Award? It is such a big deal. And the kids are learning so much. It's instilling in them a love of board games. I love one of the features they talk about here is talking about their own cultural board games that they can enter a big what do you call them, tournaments, and win deluxe versions of the games they play themselves that are representative of their own culture, as well as being introduced to Twilight Imperium of all things. Look at that, playing Twilight Imperium. It's just absolutely fantastic, folks. I can't stress enough, anything you can offer, you can just type in whatever you want. They've also got some backer levels if you want to actually put your name inscribed on some of the tables or chairs or whatnot. I put my money where my mouth is. I just backed this morning. There I am. By the way, if like me, you're a UK taxpayer, you can when you back, you get a bonus automatically via gift aid. So there can be even more help you can give these kids. And I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I'm always excited to hear about it. Again, go forget about this R&R, or put this on pause. Follow the link down in the show notes. Just spend a few minutes, and if you've just got a few bucks or whatever your monetary system is, you can make a huge difference in the lives of some really wonderful kids. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And Ben, I am just continually amazed. It's put on by the Chrysalis Youth Empowerment Network, and it's just, again, this is the best of us. This is the best thing you will ever hear about all year in relation to board games, and you can help make it better. So please consider. Okay, let's get on with the show.
Hi friends, welcome to the R&R Show, episode 95. My name is Ruel Gavula, joined by Chris George. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Ruel. It's great to be here, episode 95, and also that was a really cool video that Richard did to start us off. I love that idea, and I think he's so right. Like he said, forget about the R&R show, and then he said, no, just press a pause. No, forget about the R&R show. Really, like we're all. I feel like most people who, at least like myself and Ruel, and probably a lot of us who are watching this show, who have like tons of board games, who spend like so much money on Kickstarters every year. It's like, yeah, we know the power that board games can have, and that's why we love this hobby so much. And I think that's just like an awesome initiative that Richard has highlighted as well, and like super cool to really help people learn skills and all the skills that board gaming can have, and all the like community that it can build. And so just seems like a really cool thing, a lovely way to start off this R&R show as we check in for the year.
Absolutely, and I do want to just remind you all, check out the show notes below for links to the campaign. I contributed last year, and as Richard said, it's the best thing you'll do in this year. If you know any kind of help that you can provide, this is literally the future of gaming, folks. So it's awesome. You will get some updates throughout the year from the organization. I love seeing that, and I love seeing kids. I mean, little kids playing Twilight Imperium. That's amazing to me.
That's friggin' sweet.
Isn't that awesome?
Even though I don't like Twilight Imperium, but even still, I'm excited about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you for that, Richard, and thank you, folks, for checking out the link below. But let's move on to the mid-year check-in. What is the mid-year check-in, Chris? What is this all about?
Well, this is a tag going around on YouTube. There's these little board game tags. These tags, there's a list of questions to check in from the year. This comes from our friend Rolling Reggie, and we decided we had a lot of fun doing it last year around this time, and this year we're checking in about sort of our favorite games. We have 8 questions. We have 8 different questions about games going forward that we want to talk about. And then in the post show, we can talk about the honorable mentions, especially as well. And we're going to start it off with a banger, too, of favorite game of 2024. Now, I should specify, I threw away that it would just had to be 2024 specific. And I think that's what this sort of mid-year check-in should be. What about you, Ruel?
Yeah, for the most part, I stuck with 2024, but there are a few games that snuck in that are not 2024. So it's going to be a lot of fun, folks. I'm curious to see what Richard has on his list, and I'm curious to see how mad Richard gets at Chris for throwing out all the rules as usual.
Yeah, I threw it away. I was like, listen, I haven't played like a bajillion 2024 games, and there are other games that I'm like really excited about that I discovered this year that I like talking about, and figured I would talk about instead of just trying to give arbitrary reasons. I'm never going to talk about things arbitrarily here. I'm going to talk about things that are exciting and interesting.
Exactly.
So that's how I made my list of things that I'm excited and interested in. Other than one, I have one 2024 title on here.
Okay.
I'll talk about it when I get to it. It's in the art and production. I've never played it. I just think it looks pretty, and that's why I want to play
it. Nice. And folks, we record this live on Twitch, so if you'd like to, check out our extended edition show where we do a pre-show, a post-show, and we talk about all kinds of fun stuff. This time, we did this really cool This or That Chris and I gave the definitive answers to all the hot subjects out there that you need to know, like either Marvel or DC or dexterity games or pick up and deliver games or all kinds of fun stuff. So check out.
Right, Ruel. It was really cool. It was really cool, and we're really cool too.
We are.
Take that, internet.
Exactly. By the way, I want to shout out Ray. Normally, Ray is our third host here, but she's not here today, but she will be back next show. So shout out to Ray. Folks, you're watching on YouTube, type in a comment, say hi, Ray. I want to see all the hi Rays. Let's send some positive vibes out there to Ray, shall we?
And if you're ever around, we're doing this during the summer. We're doing it on Mondays over on Twitch. Come hang out, because you could hang out with us, chat, and then we could shout you out if you subscribe on Prime, like I would right now to our Sell It if I was doing it on Twitch and not recording it for YouTube. But you would get an awesome, cool shout out like that.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks.
Let's get started with the list.
Yeah. So the first thing on Reggie's list, again. Check out the video, the show notes. I have the link. The first one he's asking is, number 1, what is your favorite 2024 game? Chris, what do you got?
My favorite game that I have played this year, from January up into July 15, when we're recording this. Oh man, it's so good. It's going to replace the original for me. I've probably talked about it already on the show once before, but I'm going to talk about it again. It's Great Western Trail, New Zealand.
Wow.
It is so friggin' good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big fan of Great Western Trail. I found my appreciation for Great Western Trail has only grown significantly since I started working for the World Series of Board Gaming, doing all their streaming and getting to commentate on the finals of Great Western Trail with players in that final table with the previous year's ring winner, right? Like, these are people who know their Great Western Trail strategy. They know their stuff. And so like my appreciation for the base game has really, really grown because of that. And then playing Great Western Trail in New Zealand, I'm like, you know what? I might as well throw the original in the trash. Like it is so good. Like it takes everything that I like about Great Western Trail and it adds in the additional sheep that are there that you don't have to only deliver at the end, you can deliver on sheep, but more so over, at least from what I have experienced thus far, it feels like a jack of all trades strategy is very viable. Whereas in base Great Western Trail, you really need to specialize if you want to win, right? Like you need to just go for builders or go for cowboys or go for engineers, right? And like ignore everything else. Here, it really feels like you can specialize, but you can also dabble in a bunch of different things. And I just think like so many of the systems are revitalized in such a beautiful, brilliant way. Even the market, with the people coming out, the more people don't want a specific type of worker, the cheaper that worker will become, right? And so even just those little things, everything is revamped. The systems are cooking. If you like Great Western Trail, or have been like, yeah, this is good, highly recommend New Zealand. It is just so fun. I had such a blast playing it, and I cannot wait to play it again.
Nice. I have this one in shrink wrap, Chris. I'm ashamed to say it has not come off the shelf of opportunity yet. It is one of the games I want to do. And actually, folks, in a few minutes, you're going to hear about the games that we want to play off our shelves of opportunity / shame. This is one of them. It didn't make my list, but this one looks fantastic. Did they change artists from the original game to the newer versions? I feel like the art in this is better, just more vibrant to me.
Yeah, I'd say it is on par. Like it is definitely, they changed an art style from first edition to second edition.
Right.
But second edition Great Western Trail came out, I think, 2021, and then Argentina was 2022, and New Zealand was 2023. I think all of those have such a similar art style that those are likely the same artist. That would be that.
Yeah, that makes sense. 'Cause I remember the first edition's got that sort of like grim cowboy looking guy on the front, black and white, sort of gritty. But this one just feels more inviting. And everyone I've talked to about this game has said this is the best version by far. So looking forward to this one. Yeah, nice.
Really exceptional. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's move on to my favorite game of 24. Now, I followed the rules, Chris. I went with a game from 2024. This one I actually played last year in prototype form. I did a paid run through for it. But this is my favorite game of 2024 so far is Let's Go to Japan. And here is Richard in his RV playing it on the road, and I think it's apropos, right? It's a game about travel in this card tableau building game from Josh Wood. Now, you may know that name from games like Cat Lady and from one of my favorite tableau builders, Santa Monica. This one takes the cake. I think this is a absolutely fantastic, brilliant game of, hey, I'm going to plan a trip to Japan and draft cards and build a tableau. As you can see there, it's literally a calendar, Monday through Saturday. And you're going to plan a trip and through set collection. And also, it's got this really neat thing at the end of the game where after you play the cards, you're actually going to see how you travel. So you need the tickets to go from Tokyo to Kyoto and back. So you want to go for to get the most points or whatever, you want to travel, but you want to do it in a way that's most efficient, where you're not just spending all your money on these tickets and like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't get there anymore. Darn, I'm not going to be able to score those points. It is so good. The tableau building, sort of like the engine building, and also just that final spatial sort of puzzle where you're trying to move around from one day to the next, hoping you have the tickets to do it. It's brilliant. It has a solo mode, which y'all know I love solo games, and thematically, it's absolutely awesome. The story behind the game, Josh had planned on going to Japan with his partner before the pandemic. They started planning, and then the pandemic happened. They had to stop. They weren't going to go to Japan anymore. So he said, well, I'm just going to make a game about going to Japan. And that's what this is. It is a game about planning a trip to Japan. And everything is, he's like, Josh, I've been able to hang out with him a couple times and talk to him in person. He is so into the theme, and he did everything in his power to make sure that this is like totally correct with, going to the different tourist spots, all the different restaurants, the foods and stuff. This is all accurate, and it's an awesome, awesome game. That's why so far in 2024, Chris, Let's Go to Japan is my favorite.
Nice. Well, let's keep it moving because I know we're going to be behind time. So let's just go right to Richard.
I agree.
I'll try to keep my pace up too.
Cool. All right, Richard. Richard, what's your favorite game so far?
All right. First of all, let me say, in case the guys haven't already, thank you to Reggie of the great channel Roll and Reggie for getting this whole thing kicked off. I really love this thing. Second year we've done it, and it's just a fun thought exercise. And Chris and Ruel, I love seeing you guys approach this from completely different angles. Chris said, hey, favorite game I've played, period. In 2024, and he gives it to Great Western Trail, New Zealand specifically. Yeah, you know what? If you're going to make me play Great Western Trail, that's the one I want to play, because it is the best of the series, just because they finally did something interesting with the cards. It only took them 3 games to do it. Too bad I would never play Great Western Trail if I could play Maracaibo instead, especially with the Uprising expansion. But a reasonable choice. And then, of course, Ruel went the other way. Hey, favorite game I played so far, that is a 2024 game with Let's Go to Japan. I thought that game was brilliant, and I bet it's going to make a lot of top 10 of the year lists come the end of the year. Josh Woods totally knocked it out of the park. I can't wait to try it myself with some of the expansion stuff that is available for it that looks really, really cool. Passports and whatnot. Okay, so what am I going to do? What the heck? I'll split the difference. I'll go both ways and totally cheat and tell you, first of all, what's my favorite game that was published in 2024? Well, that's going to be Windmill Valley, which I believe is going to blow up at Gen Con in a few weeks. When people can finally start getting their hands on it, it totally cements relative design newcomer Danny Garcia as one of my all-time faves. You know, we started with Arboria and then went to Barcelona, and now, this is 3 for 3, knocking it out of the park. And he's not done yet. He's got a great expansion coming and more stuff coming later in the year too. But anyway, this game, there's no way it doesn't make it into my top 10 for 2024. This is the best use of gears as a mechanism to track the passage of time and change the core system you find yourself in better than any game that's ever done it before, including the OG Zulk and the Mayan calendar. And it's also publisher Board and Dice's prettiest game ever. It's absolutely amazing, and when people start getting their hands on it, I think I won't be the only one singing its praises. But to now borrow from Chris, if I were just to talk about the best new game I've played in 2024 across the board, that would have to be 2023's Daybreak, which is now retroactively my number 1 game of 2023. It is my 12th highest ranked game ever. It's one of the few games I give a 9 out of 10 to. Rounded up, it's pretty much a 10 out of 10, and I think it's absolutely magnificent. The way, well, first of all, the way it tackles the subject matter of taking proactive steps to solving the fundamentally biggest problem we face as a species today, climate change. And this game is an ode to optimism because it presents to players hundreds of different individual projects that can all add up to turning our potential disastrous future around. And every card that talks about all these different technologies and social movements and all the rest of it, they have QR codes on them, so you can go to a website and not only read about, hey, how is this working in real life? What is this new technology or this new political movement or whatever it might be? What is this in real life? How is it happening in real life? How could you get involved with it on a local level? But then on top of that, it also tells you about it in game terms, how to play the card strategically and whatnot. That in and of itself is amazing, and I think is a potential look into our future of board games as we find new ways to enhance the overall experience with digital QR codes. I mean, this is probably going to go on my most, innovative things for 2024 as well. Or, I'm sorry, I should say 2023, because this is my best game I played in 2023. Anyway, though, all that aside, it's a crackerjack, amazing, absolutely phenomenal, a cooperative game as well, where players are working hand in hand, representing different nations around the world, and your success is incumbent on me finding ways to help you and make up for your shortcomings while you're doing the same thing for me. And folks, this is what we need to be doing in the real world as well. So this is the strongest message game I've ever played, the most important message game I've ever played. And hey, on top of all that, it's also one of the most fun cooperative games I've ever played. It's absolutely amazing. The best thing I've played so far this year has got to be Daybreak. Okay, back to you guys.
Hey, he talked about 2 games. What's up with that? 2 games, Richard? Come on.
Cheater.
Everyone's breaking
All
the
right.
rules these days. Oh my gosh.
We gotta pivot. We gotta pivot, roll. We gotta do 2 now. It's all blown up.
Exactly. But hey, both those games, I know Rich has been really hyped about them. I have not played them,
Yeah.
but I'm really looking forward to them, especially Windmill Valley, because Danny Garcia,
Yeah.
Barcelona, done some really fantastic games.
Yeah, I think both are really cool. I think Windmill Valley is going to be sweet because I really love Solkin. I love that concept, and
Yes.
it's going to break my brain a bit. But and what I think is really interesting about Daybreak is that it used to be called Climate Crisis. I was looking that up beforehand, like
Oh.
as Richard was talking, because I remember it when it was first announced. It was like, this is Climate Crisis, and then they changed it to Daybreak because I think people didn't want to play a game called Climate Crisis, even though it is about a climate crisis.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
we do have to think about our impending doom when the planet collapses.
It's
which
all
is
yeah.
a sentence I came up entirely on my own.
You come up with the best sentences, Chris. I gotta tell you. By the way, Daybreak just sounds better. I think it just
Sounds
flows better. Climate
Yeah.
Crisis,
Good
yeah. Daybreak. It also reminds me of a Sylvester Stallone movie. Drop in the comments,
yeah.
folks, if you know about that one.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on. We've got plenty of games to cover. We're going to go to our second question on Reggie's mid-year check-in. It is, what is your most played game of 2024, Chris?
You know what? You know what I got to say about that, Ruel?
Huh.
I'm cheating, but I'm saying Scram. Scram, get
Scram!
out of here, Scram,
Scram!
Scram. Honestly, when I look at my board game stats app, I'll tell you what my cheat actually was. It was actually coup. But
Of course,
I was
yeah.
like, you know what? It's these smaller card games in which they're easier to get to the table, and so you can play them more, and you can play them. I've been playing a lot of coup at lunch with the cast of the show that I'm in, and so like you're gonna bang out a bunch of games, and if I'm recording them as like plays, right, one game, they go by so quickly. So I decided to give it to Scram because I think Scram is just like a friggin' gem of a game. It is so good. It has no right to be as good as it is. It's based off of the game Golf, but I love it because it is the team version of Silver and the easier version of Silver. And I think I like it better than Silver. Silver, they're both by Bezier, and Silver has a lot more abilities. But with Scram, it's just like simplified it, and it's a thing that you can really get non-gamers into playing. It's a simple card game of you take a card on your turn. You take a card and you can exchange it with cards that you have. And you see it on the screen right now, they're exchanging it with the 2 7s, because if you have the same number of card, you can actually exchange them both at the same time. So it's all about exchanging you and your partner's cards at the same time, setting each other up to do like big swaps so that when you think you have the lowest score, you say, Scram! Everybody else gets one more turn. You hope people don't swap in their high point cards into your hand, and then you keep going from there. It's just a really, really light, fantastic game. Highly recommend. It's like $12. I played it with my girlfriend's parents a ton, and that's probably why it ended up being so high. But yeah, it's just like I really like this system, and this is a game that I took specifically because they like the card game Golf, which it's based off of, and I took it and I was like, I think I'm gonna hate this. I think this is gonna be horrible because I don't think golf's fun at all. And I was completely blown away by it. So just like a huge shout out to Silver and Scram. Really fun. They're so much more fun than they have any right to be.
No, that's great. I know you talked about Scram before on the show, and this one really has me intrigued just because I remember playing Golf Solitaire as a kid, and it's okay, but just having it as a system in a large game, I think that's brilliant, and I can't wait to try it, and especially for such a cheap price too. Like, oh my gosh, I'm all
Great
about
card
that.
game.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's move on to my most played game of 2024. I've played it over a dozen times, and every time it's been an absolute blast. This actually just got recently nominated for a Spiel des Jahres award. It is
I know what this is.
Captain Flip. There it is, folks. I
Nice.
love this game. I love everything about it. It's one of those games you can explain as you play the first turn. It is so easy to get to the table. Basically, there's a tile of crew members, and you're trying to put them on your ship. And you just pull one out. They're double-sided. You do not look at both sides. You just pull one out. You look at that side, and you decide right then and there, do I put this on my ship or do I want to flip it and then place it on my ship? One or the other. And then, depending on the different characters, you're going to gain coins, or at the end of the game, you'll gain coins. It's either immediate or at the end. There's a bunch of different characters that do fun stuff, like, hey, you can get the monkey, which will flip an adjacent tile, and then you have a parrot that'll let you draw an extra tile, and you play until 4 of the 5 columns has been filled up on someone's ship. That's the end of the game. You count up your coins. That's it. It is that quick. Played it in like 15 minutes. It is awesome. I can see why it was nominated for Spiel. I think it's going to win. It's got my vote, honestly, right at this point, midpoint in 2024. I just brought this to our 4th of July celebration. My family put it out there and did exactly what I said. I put it on the table, said, folks, start, grab a tile. And they're like, what? Okay. And then within a minute, we're playing, and 15 minutes later, we're done. And darn it, my nephew beat us all. Ugh. But anyways, shout out to my nephew for winning. But it's so much fun, and that's why it's been my most played game 2024. It is absolutely fantastic.
It's like simultaneous play, right? Everybody can just grab a thing, and then you flip, and everybody goes.
No, you actually go one at a time, and that's
you go around, you pass around.
Yeah, but it's still that fast, and
still moves really quick. Yeah,
it really does. It's so good. You can play it for free on BGA, Board Game Arena, and I've got like 4 games going on. It's a lot of fun, and they do have different pirate boards or pirate ships. So each ship, I don't know if you can see there, each one has a different bonus at the top. So as you fill up columns, you'll get either coins, or you get the treasure map, which gives you an ongoing coin. Some of the other maps feature, hey, whoever finishes this column first gets the most coins. The next one finishes gets second most. There's another board that has, to play in a column, you have to pay a coin, and all kinds of good stuff. So
cool.
It is fantastic, folks. Captain Flip, that's my favorite, or my most played game 2024 so far. Let's move on and see what Richard has played the most so far this year.
Okay, all right, let's continue. Most played game. I see, once again, there is a divide between Ruel and Chris. Chris, the rule breaker, Ruel, the rule follower. And I gotta say, I've played neither of these games, Scram or Captain Flip. If you had to put one in front of me, I definitely want to play Captain Flip because of all the attention it's gotten because of this Field of Yards and all that. Plus, I think it's probably a little bit more attractive to me, but I'd like to give Scram a try too, somewhere down the road. Maybe. Not necessarily my kind of game, but sure, I'd give it a try. But hey, since they went 2 different ways, I'll go both ways again, and once again tell you about 2 games, starting with Daybreak. This is definitely the one I have spent the most time playing this year because it's about an hour long, and I've played it probably about a half a dozen times. Give or take, solo and multiplayer with Jen. And if I could, I'd be playing it right now, and I know Jen would too. But what else am I going to talk about? Well, the game I've played the most individual sessions of has to be Landmarks, which, by the way, I just made my video for it live today. This is a new game that's going to be launching at Gen Con. I just got a copy a week ago, and already Jen and I have really gone to town with this. We love it to pieces. This is basically takes the word clue-giving cooperative nature of Codenames and mixes in a healthy dollop and dash of survival exploration on a lush, mysterious island full of curses and treasures. One player, or group of players if you're playing team style, is trying to make their way back to base camp. The one clue giver is at base camp with a crappy walkie-talkie and can only give out one-word clues. So you look at all the tiles that have already been placed representing where we've explored, trying to find our way to safety, and put a new tile out, a single-word clue, to tell the lost players where to go, how to avoid the traps and the curses, how to find the treasure or more caches of water, because we don't want to die out there in the jungle. And it's freaking brilliant. You can check out my run-through. There's a link for it down in the show notes. There's links for everything we're talking about down in the show notes today, folks, after you're done with this, if you want to learn more. And this was such a fun video for me to play, too, because I filmed it with my wife, Jen, and she was the one giving clues, and I think she did a better job than me at my own job. So anyway, Landmarks is definitely one to watch for. Jen and I, we probably played it now. We played it a few more times after I have filmed it, and that's something that never happens. And it's really one to watch for. Coming soon, one of my most played games of the year, Landmarks. Okay, back to you guys.
Okay, so I'm glad that Richard had Landmarks here because I had it on my list, but it didn't make the final cut. But I'm so excited about Landmarks, Chris. It is brilliant, and it is a game that I tried at Dice Tower West earlier this year in prototype form, and I immediately said this is going to be a huge hit, and I really think it is. It's got that Codename-esque a wordplay to it, but it's got a map, and you're trying to figure out how to heck get out of the island or whatever. It's so much fun. I'm like Richard. I've got a live stream coming up real soon. I've played it several times already, and it's been a huge hit. Absolutely love it. I can see why you've played it so many times.
Nice. That's cool. Well, we're going to move on to our number 3 on the check-in, which is what was the biggest surprise of 2024? Which 2024 game or what game in 2024 was the biggest surprise? And let me see. I don't think I think I cheated on this one too. I'm pretty sure I cheated on all of them.
Nice.
But maybe no, yeah, this was also 2023. I was like, maybe it came out like the very beginning, like maybe it was delivered Kickstarter. Because this was a Kickstarter. I didn't back it, but like I want to get my hands on a copy. This game is fantastic. It's called Darwin's Journey. Darwin's Journey was so good. It is at its essence like a real combo-y worker placement game. But the thing that I like about it, and the thing that I found was unique and interesting, is that you are slowly building up your workers over the course of the game, where you're getting these different seals or these different like stamps. They're basically colors, which I think they have a symbol, so you could probably play it too, Ruel. But you give them stronger and stronger abilities, and then later on there will be places where where the workers have to go where you need like 2 blue and 2 yellow symbols. And so if you want to ever use that space and that action, and you're kind of tailoring your builds as you move along, thinking about what actions you'll use in the latter half of the game, you have to invest in those workers earlier on, like having those stats. And I think that is just such like a really interesting concept. Plus the exploration down below is super fun. You're going to be building your workers, and then down below, that's the map where you're going to be pushing a ship along a track too, and you'll get points and discoveries there. And then you're dropping off little workers at islands that you pass by so that they can run around in each island with your limited amount of movement points, taking various paths to get bonuses or to research things about particular species. And then at every round you're going to score a different element of something very Terra Mystica like. So the scoring and what you prioritize really stands out. I've only played this once. I played it when I was at Geekway to the West in St. Louis. I sat down, we learned it with a crew. It was friggin' great. And it was just one of those games that like clicked really well with me. I saw the Matrix and I was very happy about that. So yeah, really highly recommend. It's like a little chunky Euro, but once you get a few turns, it starts to click. And then if you like combos, man, it's really great.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one as well. Was there another game similar to this that was released at the same time? Am I getting this mixed up with something, Chris?
I think you also might be thinking about In the Footsteps of Darwin, which is just nominated for the Spiel alongside Sky Team and Captain Flip.
Yep.
That's the third one in that. And it is not by the same company. I just did this looking up over the break because I was curious to see what the Spiel nominees were because I didn't know. So I can tell you that that's the right answer. But yeah, you might be thinking of that.
Nice. That's exactly what I was thinking. Great. Cool. All right. Lots of games about Darwin. Let's move on to my biggest surprise of 2024. And I believe this might have made some people's lists in other categories. My biggest surprise so far is Skyrise. I fell in love with this game immediately. And it's a surprise to me because, Chris, as many games as we go through, in a year playing as content creators, there's still a ton that we just miss for whatever reason. They slip under the radar or we just don't hear about. I had no idea about Skyrise, and it's one from one of my favorite publishers, Roxley. And, oh my goodness, this game is brilliant. I absolutely love this. It actually, Chris, it reminds me a lot of a Knizia style game. It's not a Knizia game, but it's got that sort of like raw style bidding where you have certain numbers that you can bid with. And in this case, they're buildings because you're trying to, Skyrise, build buildings in different parts of the city. And as you bid those go away from your hand, right? So if I win the bid, they stay on board. But then the buildings that I didn't bid with that lost, they come back to my hand. And it's a really interesting twist on the auction mechanism. It really reminded me of Kenichi's Raw, for example, where you know exactly what the bids are, but you don't know exactly what your opponents are going to bid. It is fantastic. And Kimberly here on the channel was playing the deluxe edition, which I got the opportunity to play. It was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. I have the standard edition. I can't complain about it because it's a great game, but that deluxe edition, next level. It is so good.
Yeah.
And I love it because it's pretty straightforward. You place a building and then you are as a bid, and you either win and leave your building there, or you lose, take it back. Rinse and repeat over a couple of rounds. There are different goals that you can hit to score. There are public objectives. You also have secret objectives as well. It's just, I feel like this is the type of game I love where it may not totally do something new, but everything about it is done well. And that's why I love getting these type of games to the table. It is Skyrise, my biggest surprise of 2024.
I'm glad you like it. I haven't played it yet, but I think it looks great. Thrilled that you like it.
Nice. All right, let's go on and see what Richard's excited about. His biggest surprise for 2024.
All right, biggest surprises, and once again, we split the difference. Chris, here's my biggest surprise of this video so far. Why are you surprised that Darwin's Journey is amazing? It's co-designed by Simone Luciani, one of the greatest modern designers of all time. The man never fails. Of course it was fantastic. And by the way, if you haven't tried it yet, definitely give it a go with the Firelands expansion. That makes it even better. One of the most clever and innovative ways I've ever seen bringing adventure, storytelling, narrative, theme stuff into a really solid Euro. And then, Ruel, Skyrise. Yeah, I guess I have to try this now. Shay originally covered it on the channel, so I never actually got to go, but I guess I got to give it a go now. But anyway, since once again, you two are going, with the past versus the present, I'll do the same thing. Best game I've played so far this year that was published in 2024 has to be Boblin's Rebellion in terms of mind-blowing surprise. I'll admit, when I first heard about it, I thought, oh, that's cute, and I've liked some of the other stuff the publisher has done here, but this is just going to be okay, right? It's a simple little game of, a goblin revolt trying to take their cave back from invading trolls and all of that. And it's interesting, it is an engine building game where you've got these little cubes that represent your little goblins, because Boblin the Goblin is leading the rebellion. And you are trying to get more of these green cubes, which, by the way, look adorable. You got little silk-screened goblin faces on them. Not that it matters, it could have just been green cubes. But over time, you are drafting new cards that represent different levels of the caves that the goblins used to control and are trying to take back. And you are trying to activate these caves with different types of goblins, assassin goblins and screamer goblins and stuff like that. But to get these higher level goblins, you have to basically train your basic level goblins. And you train these goblins using the cards that you are drafting so they can convert from one type into another, so they can be deployed on different buildings, different cards that you draft. So the interesting thing is, there's a lot of games out there that are all about goods manipulation, right? Turning 2 lumber into a sheep so that you can feed your people or whatever. We've seen this a million times. In this game, there is only one good. They are goblins. But we are still manipulating them, turning them into different types of goblins or different goblin professions so we can move them through this engine of goblin training that we're creating. And then the most exciting thing about it is you draft a bunch of cards, you get more and more powerful to be using them and all of that. But eventually, once you've used a given card enough times, for whatever purpose it is, whether it's training goblins or scoring points or whatever, the card gets exhausted. It's been run into the ground, it can't do anything anymore, and then it converts into an in-game bonus scoring card, or a card that will give you some other type of huge bonus. So, you're constantly building up an engine, but then ripping it apart the more you use it to do this good conversion of transforming one type of goblin into another type of goblin based on what you need at any given time. It's really good. It is so much more than I expected it to be. And so I gotta say, when I'm talking about 2024 games that have surprised me, nothing did more so than Boblin's Rebellion. But now, let's pull a Chris and talk about a game prior to 2024. Hey, it was in this same video I filmed with my wife, Jen. It's gotta be Mindspace. I was worried for a little bit, folks, that I was starting to run out of enthusiasm for roll and writes. I was starting to think, well, maybe I've seen enough, but then Mindspace comes along, and wow, completely reinvigorates my enthusiasm for the form because it brings something new in, and it once again convinces me that maybe my favorite board game mechanism of all time has to be conveyor belts, because this is a polyomino roll and write game where we are trying to fill up a grid. We've done this in many different ways in many different games, many of them roll and write style. But what's interesting about this is you roll the dice and that tells you which of the on-offer Tetris-y type shapes you can fill in and what color they're going to be, because different colors represent different thought processes for the brain, and we're trying to fill our brain with compatible thought processes so we have a nice, well-balanced mental state. I love the theme, but what I love is at the end of every round, after each of us chooses, okay, well, I'll do a blue L, or I'll do a purple line, or I'll do a orange square. You can see it's on screen right there. All of the cards shift to the right. One of them is going to be gone and a new one comes out, and then we re-roll the dice. So you only have so long before that square piece is going to be gone from the game. But will you be able to do it in the color you want? You keep rolling dice, and every round, the square is getting one step closer to disappearing forever. I've really got to get the square. I've got the perfect space. But will it be the orange? I desperately need to be the orange. Oh, it's the blue. It's the blue again. Oh, now it's not. It didn't even come up with one at all. And the tension you've got because of this conveyor belt, taking risks, saying, okay, I could do this one now, but I'm going to wait and hope for the better one. And if it doesn't show up, well, you better pivot and come up with something else. The game is freaking brilliant. Never mind the fact that all the different things we are doing provide all kinds of really cool special bonus powers if you are doing blue pieces or orange pieces or green pieces. Really sharp game. One of my new favorite roll and writes. Definitely worth seeking out, folks. It was a huge surprise to me because it literally turned my whole mindset around and got me reinvigorated and re-excited about roll and writes, Mindspace. So those are two very big surprises for me so far this year. Okay.
All right, great choices, Richard. I never would have thought that Boblins would be what Rich was talking about. I'm curious about that game now, and I've heard good things about Mindspace. So 2 games that I'm not surprised there's surprise about it. So yeah, looking forward to those. Let's move on to our 4th question on Reggie's list. It is, what 2024 games production/art has impressed you the most, Chris?
I'll say mine in a second, but I do want to talk about Richard was like, I don't know why you're surprised about Darwin's Journey. And I was trying to reflect on that too. One, I didn't know it was Simone Luciani. Like, I really love Lorenzo Il Magnifico. I really love Grand Austria Hotel. And so like that probably would have edged me into it. When I played it, I just heard about it, but I feel like there's a sense where you can get bogged down with like so many crunchy Euros, right? Like I love crunchy Euros, and you always kind of feel, or at least I always kind of feel like maybe they're getting to be very similar. Like the more you play, it's all these crunchy mechanics. And then when you just sit down with one where everything works and the combos just work so well, I think that was like the joy. Like I expected to like it, but I didn't expect to be sort of blown away. I'd heard good things about it. I'm like, it's a crunchy Euro. I know I'm going to enjoy this. But then like when something just hits you in your heart and you're just like, man, that was good. And like leaves you feeling refreshed. Like that was a really good one. I could have put Hansa Teutonica on that list too. But also
nice.
First one. Anyway, that's for the post show. That's for the post show.
Yeah.
Mine you've already talked about, and I'm glad you did. I'm glad you like it enough to talk about it. Skyrise.
Yeah.
And I think I'm getting suckered in by the deluxe. Because even looking at it, I was like, is the art that good? It's just a bunch of towers. But I just like Roxley, I find, has such incredible production value. Like any Roxley game you get is gonna be beautiful. Like Radlands, friggin' the Brass reprint, like Brass Birmingham. Anything that Roxley touches feels like it's going to be just gorgeous. And I think Skyrise like is another one of those things by them. It's one that interested me for the gameplay, and I like that you like it. But I just think they do such a great job in their production value that when I was thinking about 2024 games, when I was thinking about art, it's difficult. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll limit that one to actually be 2024 because there's so many if it's like so broad.
Yeah.
But that one I was just like, yeah, like Roxley it makes gorgeous games, and shout out to Roxley.
Yeah, you're right. Brass Birmingham is absolutely gorgeous, and also Santorini. They did that one. That's a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Beautiful game. And I feel like, Chris, when you see that Skyrise Deluxe, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, again, I'm happy with my standard edition, but just playing the deluxe, I'm even happier, So
yeah,
highly recommend checking it out, man.
Well, how about you? What's your art pick?
My art pick is a game that we talked about on this show before. It could have filled a number of different categories for me, including surprise, and even it's in contention for Game of the Year. It is Gnome Hollow. I absolutely love Gnome Hollow. I just played it last night with a couple of buddies of mine.
Nice.
Yeah, it's so good, folks. And, it's a tile laying game. It's got some worker placement. The cute little gnomes go out and do stuff. It's got a little part where you're selling your resources, so resource management. And it all fits together really neatly in this beautiful package where it was designed and the art was done by Amon Anderson, same person. So I was blown away by you could design such a great game and also illustrate it. Totally mind-blowing. My friend Daryl, who I played with last night, he actually said, hey, you know what this reminds me of? And he'd never played before. He said, it just looks like a fairy tale book. I was like, doesn't it? It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then you get the player boards. And Ray has actually talked about this, Ray working for the op, of course. The magnets, folks. Magnets in the player board. So I love dual layer player boards. I'll throw all those out for magnets. The pieces have little magnets and they do not fall off. It is brilliant, and just that one little change, I love that. So that's why the production and art just totally impressed me. I absolutely love Gnome Hollow.
Yeah, great choice. This would have been, I contemplated this as well, but I was like, oh, we just talked about it. I was like, oh, I'll pick something different. But yeah, like, deserves to be. It's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous. Can't wait for my copy.
Yeah, cannot wait to play it again. And let's see what Richard's got for his choice.
Okay, art and production. Great. Skyrise, Chris. I guess I have another reason that I need to check this game out. Not only is it one of the best games so far this year, but it's also one of the prettiest. All right. Sign me up. And Ruel, I definitely want to get signed up for Gnome Hollow. I am so desperate to try this thing. One word, magnets. When I saw the prototype last year, I was like, wow, this is a game changer for board game production. So many magnets, and as I understand it, they made it into the final product, and it's literally a game changer in the biggest, best way. So I'm really looking forward to if I can ever get a hands on my own copy. But for myself, what have I seen first person that I can't stop just going gaga for? Oh, it's probably got to be CoLab, short for collaboration. Here's a run-through I did of a prototype for it a couple of years ago. I've got a final version of the game, and the miniatures in this game are phenomenal. They're gigantic. Hold on, let me go get one. Should have thought that before I started filming. Look at these things. Look how big they are. They're as big as my hand. And they're really cool and dynamic and detailed. And they're different colors. No more of boring gray miniatures where then you just put a little plastic thing. No, you actually see them, unique colors. So there's so much more life and vibrancy. I wish more publishers would do that. There is nothing that turns me off more to miniatures than boring blah gray filling up my table. These things are fantastic. Then on top of that, the really cool miniatures for your dice thing. Basically, this is a dice worker placement game where, first of all, you put the dice in these so they represent that it's your dice you're placing out on the board. Oh, and by the way, not for nothing, the dice are really, really nice too. Very nice, cool, etched, super detailed. The dice have their own colors that has meaning and all of that, but then you slot them in and put them out and say, oh, this is my red dice I've placed. And it's important from a gameplay point of view that everybody knows that. They know, oh, that's a red die, but it belongs to Rahdo. Why do I care about that? Because once I put my worker out and done whatever this is going to do, then it becomes a resource that everybody else can use around the table when they're moving their big, mad scientist meeples around. Which, again, look how big they are. I have very big hands. And then, if all that weren't enough, the art is gorgeous. The gameplay is brilliant. I don't know if a lot of people have heard about this yet, but watch for it, folks. If you get a chance to see it in person, I think you might agree that CoLab has got to be the best production / arted up game. Forget about my old prototype stuff there. The final stuff looks great. And it is top notch. Okay, back to you two.
Wow, CoLab, those big minis, I love it. That's like big old action figures in your hands for a game. So I can't wait to get my hands on that, Richard. Great choice. Yeah. Let's move on, Chris, shall we, to not number 5. Let's go to 4.5. Yeah, what is 4.5?
What's been your most reliable introductory board game in 2024? And this is a really tough question. Like I try to like always curate, especially like when I'm on a contract, I try to curate stuff that I can get non-gamers into. And so I had like so many for this one. And I think a lot depends on the teacher too. And a lot depends on like establishing what games your audience likes and what they won't. But I'm just going to talk about the one that I played most recently that people gelled with and enjoyed. And that was Rear Window. Rear Window is, if you've played Mysterium, it's that, essentially, with the twist. You're trying to figure out, there are 4 people and there are 4 basically jobs, although you could be the klutz, you could be something else, you could be a home inspector, who knows. But you draw the ghost, essentially the director draws 8 cards, and you must play those 8 cards on the window. Like, you don't get to draw new cards. You have to play the 8 cards in your hand to try to give clues. So some of them will be really obvious. You'll be like, yes, this is the orange person. I'm putting them in the orange slot. Easy peasy. But other things, they have multiple elements to them. So there is some shakeup. And then the team will have to determine what is where. And then you will let them know how many they got right. Not where they got them right, but just how many. And they have to be exactly in the right spot, kind of like Mastermind, if you ever played that. But the twist to this from Mysterium, right now that's very Mysterium, you just have to figure out what's behind the director's screen. The twist here is that I could be a murderer as the director. And if I'm a murderer, I don't want you to know that I'm a murderer. In fact, I want you to get 6 or 7 things correct, but not get correct that I am the murderer. And so there's that element of like, maybe I'm giving you the correct clues, but maybe I'm a murderer. And I think that is like a really funny twist on Mysterium. And it's a great little co-op game. It says 3 to 5. The first time I played it, we had 6 players. It's like one director versus the team, or maybe you're all working together. So it's just like a solid, fun one. Mysterium hits well in this. If you have film buffs in your life and you want to have that style, you can check this one out.
Yeah, that I really just wrote this game off. I just figured, okay, IP, it's not whatever, but that sounds 100%. Fun. I had no idea it's like Mysterium style. I would totally play this. Yeah. And which reminds me, or leads me to the question, Chris, favorite Hitchcock film, if you have one off the top of your head.
Oh, I mean, you know what? It might literally be Rear Window.
Okay.
Okay. Kind of a cop-out, but like, I mean, Jimmy Stewart's so good. There's so much tension in that film that like, really, that one comes to mind. Like, I like that more than Psycho, probably more than Vertigo, probably more than North by Northwest. So and The Birds. So yeah, so many good ones. I was gonna say mine's Vertigo, then Rear Window, then Psycho. Nice. But so good. All right, so most reliable introductory game on my shelf these days is one we've already talked about. It is Captain Flip, and nice.
It's brilliant, folks. Again, super simple to get into. There's the different tiles, and you teach it in a minute, play it in 20. I don't think there's much more to say than it is well worth its Spiel des Jahres nomination.
Nice.
All right. So we're moving on quickly because we got a lot of games to talk about today, folks.
We do.
Richard, what is your 4.5?
All right, the bonus question from Reggie, most reliable gateway. Chris, I am so desperate to play Rear Window. I mean, I love the movie, and ever since I first heard about it, of course, it's not a particularly engaging. I don't even think it supports 2 players, unfortunately. But someday I hope to give it a try. And Captain Flip, I already talked about that earlier. I would definitely like to get this a go because of the Spiel des Jahres nod that it got. But for me, well, personally, this is a tough one for me because I generally don't find myself in situations very often where I need a great gateway for casual players. But this year was interesting because Jen and I spent the first 3 months of this year on the road in the RV. And I did have the occasion to try to convince fellow RVers out there, hey, why are you carrying 200 board games? You have space on the RV. Why did you bring so many? Because board games are great. Let me prove it to you with Cascadia. I have to admit, I'd originally taken Cascadia on the road only so that Jen and I could try the Cascadia Landmarks expansion, which, by the way, is phenomenal and so elevates the game way past gateway status. But it turns out I used this several times at several different RV stops with several different folks, and they were all came away saying, boy, when we get back to the States, because we were south of the border in Baja, Mexico, we're going to have to get a copy of this myself. There's a reason that it got the Spiel des Jahres, and it is well-deserved. I still do wonder, how would they have done if they didn't have me teaching them the game? I mean, I know that there's, a preset, hey, just use these easier cards. It's still a lot to grok, and it is a little bit on the long side, but make no mistake, with me teaching them, I know I converted several people into, the board game fandom that we all enjoy. Cascadia worked a treat for me, so that would have to be my most reliable so far. Okay.
Yeah, Cascadia is brilliant, and it's one of my favorites as well to take a lot. I think it is good enough, or, not as complex as other games where you can introduce it to new gamers and to casual gamers, and they'll get it. They'll figure out the rules. They may not play it well, but they'll at least be able to play it. Cascadia is a great choice.
Yeah, it was one that I've also done this summer and introduced to a few people too, and we had a good game, and they all quite enjoyed it too. So
awesome.
Yeah, a really solid pick. Rear Window, you can play it too. It says 3 to 5 on the box. You just play it at 2. It's like you can play Mysterium at 2 if you really wanted to. It's like it's a back and forth. It's Codenames duet essentially.
Nice.
I don't know why they put 3 to 5, but I get it. You can play it at 2.
Cool.
All right, our next question.
Yes. What game? What game do you want to get off your shelf of shame the most, Chris?
I know I had a couple for this one, but the one that I settled on is The Hunger. The Hunger by Richard Garfield. It's basically Vampire Clank, essentially. I haven't played it yet, but I got it. I got it for like $10 when I was at KublaCon. I saw it on sale, and I was like, you know what? I think this theme looks so funny. I think I like Clank. And it's the theme that sort of brought it into me. I'm excited to get that off of my shelf of shame. Running around, you have to slurp up as many humans as you can and then get back to your castle before the sun burns you in entirety. I just think it sounds so funny, which is why I picked it up. And Clank mechanics make it fun as well, that like going out and getting stuff. So I'm stoked about that one.
Yeah. I remember this one when it came out. It sort of like it came out big to do, and then it just sort of disappeared for whatever reason. There's just so many games that come out. Not all one we're gonna hit, but yeah, I'm curious to try this one out as well. You had me at Clank, deck building, Richard Garfield.
There you go.
All right, so the game I want to get off my shelf of shame for the most, Chris, is a game called. Let me make sure I get the name right because I always say the wrong name. Snap Ships Tactics is the game. Yeah, so let's move on over here to show you exactly what it is. I love Legos, folks, and this reminds me of Legos because you're just building ships. I mean, how cool is that? And then you're taking those ships and blowing each other up. You're playing a board game. You've got all the different powers and abilities. There's some health meters there. So our friend Mike from the One Stop Co-op Shop playing the solo game. So there's a solo implementation. There is the standard versus 1v1, and there's also a cooperative version. So Richard, you could try it out as well. But I'm all about building ships. I honestly have this in Shrink, and I got it because of the whole building aspect. I love building Lego, and this will scratch that itch of building Lego and also let me play a board game at the same time. And that's why it's on the top of my shelf of shame, which is admittedly getting way too full these days. But I'm really looking forward to building ships in Snap I see a Snap Ships Tactics. That's the name of the game.
Snapship Tactics, baby.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that one, Chris.
Nice. Let's turn it over to Richard. I want to see what he's got.
All right, Richard, what game are you wanting to get off your shelf of shame?
All right, Shelf of Shame time, or Shelf of Opportunity for folks who prefer that. Chris, The Hunger, what are you waiting for? Honestly, I've tried it, and I would still have to give the nod to Clank, but I think it does do some interesting things overall. But in the end, I kept Clank and got rid of The Hunger, but you should make that decision for yourself. And Ruel, I'm right there with you. I have a copy of Snapship Tactics on my shelf as well. Here's the problem. I got it because I wanted to try it as a cooperative game, but you need 2 copies to have enough components to be able to play a co-op game, dogfighting against the bad ships and whatnot. And I've only got 1 copy, so that's kind of a bummer. Ruel, you need to bring your copy up here to the Pacific Northwest so we can combine forces and get it off both of our shelves at once. But anyway, for me, there's a bunch of stuff on my shelf. Folks can always see it at unfilmed.rahdo.com if you want to see everything on my shelf that has yet to get played. And of everything on that shelf, one stands out above all others, and it is the Catacombs Red Box expansion. And here's the deal, folks. Here's me covering Catacombs many, many years ago, back when Jen and I were still living in Malta. And this is a great player versus player, head versus head, one versus many dungeon crawl that's all about disc flipping, which is very, very cool. And Jen and I really liked it, except for the fact that we have to beat each other up, because I'm the dungeon master trying to kill all of her heroes with my monsters. She's trying to defeat all my monsters. And it's always kind of bugged me that we have to work at cross purposes. Here's the deal, folks. There is a new expansion for Catacombs, and also the spin-off game, Castles and Catacombs, that turns them into cooperative games. It's called the Catacombs Red Box expansion, and I have it. And I so want to play it because I want to do cooperative fantasy, adventure, dungeon crawl, disc flipping with Jen. I've had it on my shelf for months now, and I have not gotten a chance, but it's definitely before, I mark my words, before 2024 is over, I will have gotten out that red box. I will have given it a try, and Jen and I will flick discs together instead of against each other, which makes me very, very excited. It's a great opportunity. It is my great shame I have not done it yet already. It's the Catacombs Red Box expansion. Okay, back to you guys.
Yeah, Richard, let's combine forces and get Snapships Tactics off our shelves of opportunity. The only thing is, you come down here to Southern California, and we'll take care of it. So one of these days we'll get that game played.
Yeah, it seems like it'll really happen the way you both are saying, come to me, no, come to me, no, come to me. Yeah, for sure it's not going to get until next year, and it's going to be, what's on your shelf of shame? Well, it's this thing called Snapship Tactics.
Just replay the video. Chris, let's move on to number 6. This one from Reggie's mid-year check-in list is, which game from 3 or more years ago did you discover this year?
Yeah, that's a good one. I went back. It's pretty far back. I tried to go as far back as possible. And this one was mentioned when we were talking about deck building. I guess it's not that far back. It's 2012 on our deck building one with my neighbor and not friend, Yuval. And this is called Copycat. I played Yuval's version of this.
Yes.
It's Copycat, and it blends in a meld of like every mechanic that was popular around the time. You had like Through the Ages, you had like Agricola, you had a bunch of other stuff that I forget about now. But they had worker placement, tableau building, deck building. It was like an awesome mishmash, an incredible homage, and it's really good. It's so surprising. Like the box is by Freedom and Frieza. So then I was like, okay, now that I know the name, now I understand why it's so good. But there's just like a delightful right up at the front saying, hey, I stole all these mechanisms from these popular games, and like shout out to them. And it's just like such a wonderful treat of board gaming, and I really enjoyed playing it this year. So I played it for the first time this year, and so that's why it's Copycat.
Nice
for that one for me.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this during the deck building show, and it just seems so wild and crazy, but it somehow works, right?
Yeah, it's I would say probably one of the very first like jack of all trades style game, like really ahead of its time. because of 2012, like before the mishmash of mechanics that happens so frequently now in like 2020 on. I think this was like miles ahead of its time and is worth playing if you know someone who has it.
Awesome. That's cool. Okay, my game that I discovered from 3 or more years ago is about a 20-year-old game, and this, Chris, I feel like it falls along the same lines where I feel like it was like ahead of its time, and it is a classic to this day. It is El Grande. This one here is from my run-through here on the channel, and this is an area control game. It is a Euro-style game, but it's so good, and it's really... I love games that are super streamlined with their rule set and the strategy and the depth come through in the gameplay. This is a perfect example of that. You're just, laying cards, trying to get those little meeples onto the board and eventually move them around in different spots to gain control of that area to score the most points. There's also a castle where you're going to drop things. There are the action cards you can do. Oh, it's so good. I like... The second I played it, I'm like, this is immediately top 25 game of all time for me, just after one play. And subsequent plays have proved that. The 2-player game is terrific. They have a dummy player, which does a really good job of keeping things interactive. And it's a shining example of the genre, area control, troops on a map, and highly recommend, folks. It is a game that I discovered that's over 3 years old, and I'm so happy it's still around in this new edition. This is the latest version from Stronghold. They redid some of the art and whatnot, and it's a fantastic game. El Grande.
Now, do you know if the 2-player dummy version was in previous editions or not? It feels like that could be something that was added into a new edition, but I don't know if it would have been.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know, Chris. I thought it wasn't, but it could have easily been in there. But the way it's one of those almost like perfect games. I love it so much. It's so good.
It's one that I have to play. I still never played it. You know what? If I play it in the next year, it'll probably be on our check-in next year, right?
Just play this part of the video again. You know what? I really feel like that this is the type of game that would do well at the World Series of Board Gaming, which you work for. I think it's one of those classics that a lot of people played, and I think it'd make great for a tournament style game. So that's an older game we discovered. Let's see. I mean, Richard's played so many games. I'm curious to see what he's got on his list.
Yeah.
All right, both of you are going old school. Copycat, Chris, I'm glad you discovered it. My wife, Jen, loves this to pieces. Please, nobody tell Jen that I ultimately traded Copycat away. Or actually, I got rid of it when we moved back to the States. It was mostly because it's an oversized box, and I was trying to save space for an international move. But one thing I did find, as brilliant as it was, this mishmash of worker placement and deck building and all the rest of it, was it needed a little bit more for long-term replayability, I personally believed. My wife didn't care. She thought it was fantastic. She doesn't know it's gone. But I'm glad you are discovering it, Chris, and I know why. Folks can watch the previous R&R where Chris discovered it by accident, thanks to his neighbor, not his friend. And then, Ruel. Yeah, El Grande. By the way, thank you very much for finally, after all these years, putting a run-through of El Grande on the Rahdo Runs-Through channel. I always felt it was a shortcoming that one of the all-time classic area control games was not represented. You did a great run-through of it, folks. There's a link for it down in the show notes. Like I said, links for everything we're talking about today. Not for me. Your run-through convinced me 100% that it is definitely not for me. You know what is for me? You know what I discovered? Not quite as old as your stuff, because either I knew 10 plus years ago that I didn't want to play El Grande, or I already did try a Copycat. For me, it's a little bit more recent. A few years ago, there was a very big hotness came out. It was called So Clover. Here's Kimberly Tolson doing a rules teach and then walkthrough of the game. By the way, this was the video that convinced me that Kimberly had the chops to do run-throughs on the channel, because this was such a phenomenal demonstration she did of the game when I watched it all those years ago. Tell me, because officially she wasn't going to, this is a game for 3 or more players. It's supposedly a party word game. Give it any thought, because hey, why would I bother with this if I got code names, which works phenomenally with 2. Here's the deal, folks. Earlier this year, I played Clover with Dan King, the Game Boy Geek, and fell in love with it. And I'm like, I was talking to him. It's too bad it's only for 3 or more players. And Dan said, what are you talking about? This game is amazing at 2 players. It's maybe best at a 2-player game. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They say it's 3. And he said, yeah, they're idiots. They're just throwing away money because you can use the Codenames Duet rules to turn Clover into a brilliant cooperative 2-player game. And I have since gotten a copy, and I have tried it, and I can confirm that Dan is right. It works great 2-player, and the publisher, I don't know what they were thinking. They literally just want to throw money away when they've got something that couples gamers everywhere should know about. This is such a fun, fantastic game. I mean, you can just pause this right now, folks, and say, well, hey, does camping, is recent intent the best use for it? Obviously recent shouldn't go with Franklin, because that's probably Ben Franklin, unless of course it's Franklin Richards from the comic books. Maybe that's a recent thing. But Franklin, Genius, and Mint, I don't even have to explain the rules. You should be able to see, what's the puzzle you're trying to find out here? You got 5 cards. You got to match 4 of them up based on the clues your teammates have given you. It's freaking brilliant. And I'm here to say it is an amazing 2-player game. And the publisher, the next time they do a print run, they should update their box and say, 2 to whatever it is, 5 or 6 players instead of 3, and they would make a lot more money, and they should, because thank you to Dan King, the Game Boy Geek, for opening my eyes and introducing me to an older game I had passed by, Clover. Okay, let's throw it back to you guys.
Clover is brilliant. I love that game, and I didn't know it was only 3 to 5 players, but yeah, it seemed to me like when I played at 4 players, I was like, this would totally work at 2, and it's a terrific game. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's like another Rear Window situation. Like, just you can do it. But I do appreciate what I do appreciate is publishers being like, no, it's not like the full experience that we intended, and so not putting it on the box, because people get so frustrated. Like when 7 Wonders had 2 to 7 players on the box, and now it's 3 to 7.
That's right.
In the second edition, it's they've moved it to 3 to 7 because they got rid of their those rules for 2 players. But so people are going to be. It's going to be either way. What can you do?
Exactly. Okay, let's move on with Reggie's list here, the mid-year check-in. We've got number 7, Chris. So which games are you most excited about for the second half of the year?
Well, I'll tell you, I know this is delivering in the second half of the year, and I've talked about it a ton. I am thrilled. I won this game in the Board Game Geek contest. You can fill out little surveys, and I won a copy of this game. This was like just as I was starting doing YouTube, doing content creation. I was over the friggin' moon because I couldn't afford it because like COVID was happening. I didn't have any work. This is Arydia. I can't wait. It's a big old campaign box. It's a big old box, but like the care and detail at which this I think has been created. Every time there's an update, I get excited to read the update. And I just think it's gonna be friggin' great. I love that you can add in little heads. You can change your body and your head, like depending upon your class. You're like, okay, I'm the monk, and then this is the head that I want to use. Right? You build your character, you explore. There, it looks like there's been such care in terms of storage and pulling out and setting up. I have huge expectations for this game, and I'm still like really stoked. All of the mechanics that are exciting to me. When you roll the dice, like they're going to be attacking certain parts of your body, and then you can put like armor on that body, and it's like, hey, it hits your arm. Are you protected on your arm? Like then it could slow things down. Yeah, I'm really stoked. I've never played Zaya Legends of a Drift System, which is also by Cody Miller, but I don't care because I'm stoked for this, and I can't wait for it to arrive.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. And I remember you've talked about this before on the show, and it looks gorgeous. And when are you going to get it? Is it on its way, or?
I think it's on its way. I think it's projected like September or October, so that means December.
Yeah,
You know what
exactly.
I mean? Like that means December.
Yeah.
I know that, but like if I get around December, oh baby, I could do that over Christmas break. Like maybe I could take some time.
Oh.
Dang, yeah, it's gonna be great.
Nice, awesome, cool. So what I'm looking for, most excited for the second half of the year, it was one of them was actually Landmarks, which Richard's talked about already. I think it's gonna be a huge hit at Gen Con. Another one I think is gonna be a super big hit is a game called Rock Hard 1977, and I'm absolutely thrilled about this game. Jackie Fuchs, the designer, she used to play bass for a band called the Runaways that had, Joan Jett was part of that band in the 70s. Jackie also is I think 4 or 5 time Jeopardy champion, and she's an attorney by trade. She's an amazing person, and now she's a game designer, and she took the inspiration of being out on tour during the 70s, being a rock star, and made it into a worker placement game. I mean, you had me at hello. I'm all about this game. The theme, the mechanisms, and just the early prototype that I've seen looks terrific. And Chris, it's from DeVere. Everything DeVere these days, it's hits. It's a hit-making factory. Yeah, so super, super excited about it. Also, for you Spinal Tap fans, it's got a nice little nod to Spinal Tap where the amplifiers, all the knobs on the amplifiers, don't go to 10, they go to 11. So if you watch Spinal Tap, you know exactly what we're talking about. Let's see what games Richard is most excited for. Richard, what games are you excited about for the second half of the year?
All right, anticipation. What do you guys got? Oh, Arydia. Wasn't that the one, Chris, that you've already put on your must-have desert island games list? Well, I guess you must be excited. That makes perfect sense. Probably not something I'm that interested in, but I'm very happy for you that it will soon be in your hands, and you'll find out if you made a terrible mistake in that previous R&R. And Ruel, did you a doubler? Landmarks. Hey, I already talked about that. It is fantastic. I thought you already had a copy. And then Rock Hard. Yeah. I look forward to hearing what you think about the game. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, but for me, there can be only one. Star Trek Fleet Captains. This is my most anticipated game for the year. Back when I did at the beginning of January, my most anticipated list, and I put Imperium Horizons at my number 1. I was genuinely enthusiastic for it, but that was a placeholder for this because I couldn't talk about it because it hadn't been announced yet. It has since been announced. This is from Dave Turczi and Nigel Bucknell, the co-designers of the Imperium deck building series, which I've said before and I'll say again, is arguably the greatest modern designer card game of all time, eclipsing all others. And they're taking the core ideas of Imperium and re-engineering them and turning them into a Star Trek game. A Star Trek game that boldly goes through all of Star Trek canon, or almost all of it, and mixes and matches, original series, next gen, Enterprise, Voyager, new Trek stuff, Discovery is in here, Lower Deck stuff is in here. It just goes wide and deep. There's movie stuff. There's only a couple things that so far have been offline. The Abrams verse, I believe, and there's no mirror universe stuff yet, anyway. I'm going to assume that means that maybe there's some kind of, legal stuff that has to get worked out, but I don't care. As a lifelong Trek fan and as a huge fan of the card game Imperium, those two things combined together has got to make this the most exciting card game, the most exciting game, period. Not just for this year, but maybe the most anticipation I have for this of any game, of any type. I'm talking video games. I'm talking everything. Again, you can watch the Imperium run-throughs that are on the channel that have shown up over the years. I covered the original Imperiums. Maggie did a great job of Imperium Horizons run-through earlier this year, showing off the solo play. When I get my hands on this, oh man, I'm beside myself with excitement. Live long and prosper. Infinite diversity, infinite combinations. Star Trek's Captain's Chair is where it's at. I cannot wait. I am buzzing with anticipation. All right, back to you guys.
I am also buzzing in anticipation of Star Trek Captain's Chair. I love Imperium Horizons. I agree with Richard. It's a brilliant design, and to put it in the Star Trek universe is great. But I got to let you know right now, I don't know about that reaction to my choice of Rock Hard 1977, Richard. Chris, something tells me his
he hates
excitement.
it.
Okay, you said it. What's going on, Richard? Well, we're gonna find out real soon. Let's
No,
move.
he doesn't. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to yuck your yum. He wants to make sure that you're still stoked. It's always a tough thing, right? Like when you don't like a game, someone's like, "I can't wait to play this game. I just went all in."
Yeah.
You go, "Oh no, what do
Right?
I say? You've already spent the money." You
Yeah.
just say like, "You know what? I really hope you like it. Like,
Yep.
I let me know what you think." Like that's what you got to say.
Exactly. Not there's a game for everyone, and not all games are made for everyone. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
But let's move on to the final question on Reggie's list. Number 8. What's your personal favorite video, Chris, that you've posted to your channel?
Well, I was gonna pick the very first video I ever made just to go really way back. No, I'm just I did this one's for 2024. I could do I had a couple, but like the one that I picked was this really stupid playthrough that me and my friend Zach did for this very like easy take that card game called Hex Effects. But we decided because it wasn't good for a 2-player, but we're like, oh well, we can make a 4-player, and we invited our friends Il Capitano and Il Dottore from the Commedia dell'arte land, and we played with them. And so it was just fun to invite them over to our. Oh look, we're even wearing the same shirt.
Oh wow!
Oh no, this is slightly different. It's slightly different color.
Okay.
It's a different one. But yeah, it was a very silly and dumb playthrough. My favorite part about that is that Zach really needs glasses, and he can't wear glasses when he's wearing his Dottore mask, and so he's like, I don't even know what's in my hand. Anyway, it's very stupid. It's like just this stupid thing, but like we had fun. We probably had more fun filming it than anybody would have watching it. However, it's which one I like, so that's the one that I'm gonna show.
Exactly. Nice. That's fun, and I love any video that starts with masks. Like I'm all about that. That's fantastic, Chris. For my choice, my personal favorite on my channel, I do this series. It's an ongoing series. We do it monthly. My buddy Darwin and I do a series called On the Clock. And what this is, we play board games using the chess clock. So we just try to play games as fast as we can. It's silly. We got a bunch of rules wrong. Well, we don't get as many rules wrong as I thought we would. So we're actually pretty decent at it. So we take this one, for instance, the latest one that we posted this year, where we played Potion Explosion in less than 15 minutes. We gave each other 7.5 minutes to make our moves. You can see there, this is sped up, but we're still playing really fast in real life. So we knocked it out in less than 15 minutes. The longest part of this game was honestly just counting up our scores. So
right.
It can be done. It's super silly to do. I love doing it. This all started with a conversation I had with the Brothers Murph a couple of years ago. We want to play Twilight Imperium using a chess clock and try to knock out a 6-player game in like under 2 hours. It sounds like utter madness, but I am so down for it. And this is sort of like the testing grounds for that. So one of these days, Chris, you may see a video of, hey, 6 players, Twilight Imperium under like maybe 90 minutes. It would be absolutely insane. The one thing I do like that we do for this challenge is we use a chess clock, and the rule that we have is you run out of time, you lose. Just like you lose. Yeah, you just straight lose. So yeah, fun times, and let's see what Richard's got. I'm curious to see. He's posts a ton of videos every year. Let's see what his favorite is.
Okay, favorite videos. Chris, I missed your Hex Effects video, but I promise I will watch it today after I'm done filming this. I'm against the clock. I've got to get this stuff filmed and uploaded to Ruel ASAP. But folks, if you want to watch it, links again down in the show notes. And Ruel, what did you have? Oh, it's another one of your On the Clocks. I love those. Everybody should watch those. They are so much fun, especially if you watch them the way I do at 2x speed. Oh my goodness, the tension is palpable, and you're in and you're out. It's amazing to me. I don't think I could do it, quite frankly. As for me, it's an easy choice. There's no two ways about it. My favorite video that went up on my channel was my February ramble. And now, this is kind of cheating because rambles are basically something that exists behind the firewall of my Patreon. For $2 a month, folks, you can see a new ramble I do every week. And one of the rambles I did back in February was giving everybody a tour of what life was like for me and Jen during our half-year-long road trip. I talked about how I filmed games and kept Rahdo running. I talked about all the games that we brought with us on the road. I gave you a tour of our RV. All the nooks and crannies. I opened up every drawer for people who were just worried what our life was like. And to this day, I am still going back and watching this video or snippets of it every couple of weeks because I miss life on the road so much. And we've been back home for 3 months now, and sometimes I just have to remind myself how happy I was out there on the road, and this video does that for me. So it's an easy choice. It is my favorite by far. You got the insides. I'm still talking about the filming, but hey, we were outdoor too. This is us. Jen's trying to show the whales just off. But, like I said, it was a deep dive on everything, and there's our power supports. The dogs are doing who knows what out there. There's my solar panel. At one point, you can watch me riding the e-bikes around this area. I love this video because it makes me happy, and it makes me excited to get on the road one more time. But anyway, not everybody can afford $2 a month to watch that. I understand. So let me give an alternate one. It literally just got posted today. It's my run through I just did for Landmarks. And this is not the first time you've heard about Landmarks, folks. I already mentioned I filmed this run through with my wife, Jen. And we've done this in the past where it's a secret clue giving game. And normally it's me describing how my thought process about giving clues and the way I do this. Like we did it for Beyond Baker Street, which is a Hanabi style game where I was giving clues to Jen. She would put on headphones and listen to loud music while I described to the audience all the thought process about how to best give clues and whatnot. Did we do one for Hanabi as well? Maybe. I know we did it for Codenames also. Here's the deal. We did it again for this, but we flipped the script. I put the headphones on. I rocked out, and you'll really get a nice sample of my musical taste, if nothing else. But Jen spends the entire time doing the actual run-through, describing her thought process about how best to give clues to help me survive on the island. And so I got to watch this run-through after Jen and I had finished playing the game, and I didn't know what she was saying to the audience, and I was blown away. She did such an amazing job. She could totally do run-throughs on the channel. She's amazing. I love her. She's my wife. And so, of course, this has got to be one of my favorite videos on the channel as well. Okay, back to you guys. Oh, before I get back to you guys, don't forget, folks, we've got a post show. I've got 2 more topics that weren't officially part of the Reggie list. I'm going to tell you my favorite expansion so far this year and my most disappointed game so far this year as well. So stick around or follow the links down in the show notes to go to the extended edition. I've got a little bit more up my sleeve.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, Landmarks, it's going to be a hit. I've said it before a couple times on this show. I'm really excited about that. And I did love the RV stuff that he's done. It's a really cool look at a happy time in Richard's life where they were traveling. But, folks, that's going to be it for the mid-year check-in. Chris, it's been a pretty good half year so far, I think, for board games. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only going to get better.
That's the spirit. Okay, folks, be sure to check out the extended edition. Click on the links below. And until next time, we'll see you here on the R&R Show. This has been episode 95. Until next time, we'll see you later. So long.